Put my contacts in today. Contacts in today. Had to tweet. Go for green. It's April 1st. April 1st. Still reading in Matthew, Numbers, and Job. Matthew 25, 1 through 30. 25, 1 through 30. Story of the 10 bridesmaids. Story of the 10 bridesmaids. The kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of 10 bridesmaids who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. The 5 who were foolish took no oil for their lamps, but the other 5 who were wise took along extra oil. When the bridegroom was delayed, they all laid down and slept. At midnight they were roused by the shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Come out and welcome him." All the bridesmaids got up and prepared their lamps. The 5 foolish ones asked the others, "Please give us some of your oil because our lamps are going out." But the others replied, "We don't have enough for all of us. Go to a shop and buy some for yourselves." But while they were gone to buy oil, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was locked. Later, when the other 5 bridesmaids returned, they stood outside, calling, "Sir, open the door for us." But he called back, "I don't know you, so stay awake and be prepared, because you do not know the day or hour of my return." Story of the 3 servants. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a trip. He called together his servants and gave them money to invest for him while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of gold to one, 2 bags of gold to another, and 1 bag of gold to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. Then he left for his trip. The servant who received 5 bags of gold began immediately to invest the money and soon doubled it. The servant with 2 bags of gold went right to work and doubled the money. But the servant who received 1 bag of gold dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money for safekeeping. After a long time, the master returned from his trip and called them to give account of how they had used his money. The servant who had entrusted the 5 bags of gold said, "Sir, you gave me 5 bags of gold to invest, and I doubled the amount." The master was full of praise. "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount of money, so now I will give you more responsibility. Let's celebrate together." Next came the servant who received 2 bags of gold with the report, "Sir, you gave me 2 bags of gold to invest, and I've doubled the amount." The master said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together." Then the servant with the 1 bag of gold came in and said, Sir, I know you are a hard man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gather crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth, and here it is." But the master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant. You think I am a hard man, do you? Harvesting crops I didn't plant and gathering crops I didn't cultivate? Well, you should at least have put the money into the bank so it would have gained some interest. Take the money from this servant and give it to the ones with the 10 bags of gold. To those who will use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who are unfaithful, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's Matthew 25, verse 1 through 30. Now we got Numbers 30 and 31. 30 and 31. Laws concerning vows. Now Moses summoned the leaders of the tribes of Israel and told them, "This is what the Lord has commanded. A man who makes a vow to the Lord or makes a pledge under oath must never break it. He must do exactly what he has said he would do. If a young woman makes a vow to the Lord or a pledge under oath while she is still living at her father's house, and her father hears the vow or pledge but says nothing, then all her vows and pledges will stand. But if her father refuses to let her fulfill the vow or pledge on the day that he hears of it, then all her vows and pledges will become invalid. The Lord will forgive her because her father will not let her fulfill them. Now suppose a young woman takes a vow or makes an impulsive pledge and later marries. If her husband learns of her vow or pledge and raises no objection on the day he hears of it, her vows and pledges will stand. But if her husband refuses to accept her vow or impulsive pledge on the day he hears, he nullifies her commitments and the Lord will forgive her. If, however, a woman is widowed or divorced, she must fulfill all her vows and pledges no matter what. Suppose a woman is married and living in her husband's home when she makes a vow or pledge. If her husband hears it and does nothing to stop her, her vow or pledge will stand. But if her husband refuses to accept it on the day he hears it, her vow or pledge will be nullified, and the Lord will forgive her. So her husband may either confirm or nullify any vow or pledge she makes to deny herself. But if he says nothing on the day he hears of it, then he is agreeing to it. If he waits one more day than the day and then tries to nullify a vow or pledge, he will suffer the consequences of her guilt. These are the regulations the Lord gave Moses concerning relationships between man and his wife, and between father and young daughter who still lives at home. Numbers 30, Numbers 31. Conquest of the Midianites. The Lord said to Moses, "Take vengeance on the Midianites for leading the Israelites into idolatry. After that, you will die and join your ancestors." So Moses said to the people, "Choose some men to fight the Lord's war of vengeance against Midian. From each tribe of Israel, send 1,000 men into battle." So they chose 1,000 men from each tribe of Israel, a total of 12,000 men, armed for battle. Then Moses sent them out, 1,000 men from each tribe. And Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, led them into battle. They carried along the holy objects of the sanctuary and the trumpets for sounding the charge. They attacked Midian just as the Lord had commanded Moses, and then they killed all the men. All 5 of the Midianite kings, Evi, Rekem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, died in the battle. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with the sword. Then the Israelite army captured the Midianite women and children and seized their cattle and flocks and all their wealth as plunder. They burnt all the towns and villages where the Midianites had lived. After they gathered the plunder and captives, both people and animal, they brought them all to Moses and Eleazar the priest and the whole community of Israel, which was camped on the plains of Moab beside the Jordan River, across from Jericho. Moses, Eleazar, and the priests and all the leaders of the people went to meet them outside the camp. But Moses was furious with all the military commanders who had returned from battle. "Why have you let all the women live?" he demanded. These are the very ones who followed Balaam's advice and caused the people of Israel to rebel against the Lord at Mount Peor. They are the ones who caused a plague to strike the Lord's people. Now kill all of the boys and all of the women who slept with a man. Only the young girls who are virgins may live. You may keep them for yourselves. And all of you who have killed anyone or touched a dead body must stay outside the camp for 7 days. You must purify yourselves and your captives on the 3rd and 7th day. Also purify all of your clothing and everything made of leather, goat hair, or wood. Then Eleazar the priest said to the men who were in battle, the Lord has given Moses this requirement of law. Anything made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, or lead that is metal do not burn. Must be passed through the fire to be made ceremonially pure. These metal objects must be then further purified with the water of purification. But everything that burns must be purified by the water alone. On the 7th day you must wash your clothes and be purified. Then you may return to camp. Division of the spoils. And the Lord said to Moses, you and Eleazar the priest and the family leaders of each tribe are to make a then divide the plunder into 2 parts and give half to the men who fought the battle and half to the rest of the people. But first give the Lord his share of the captives, cattle, donkeys, sheep, and goats that belong to the army. Set apart 1 out of every 500 as the Lord's share. Give this share of their half to Eleazar the priest as an offering to the Lord. Also take 1 of every 50 of the captives, cattle, donkeys, sheep, and goats, and the half that belongs to the people of Israel. Give this share to the Levites in charge of maintaining the Lord's temple. So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moses. Plunder remaining for the spoils that the fighting men had taken total was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 young girls. So half of the plunder given to the fighting men of Israel totaled 337,500 sheep, of which 675 were the Lord's share, 36,000 cattle, of which 72 were the Lord's share, 30,500 donkeys, in which 61 were the Lord's share, 16,000 young girls, of which 32 were the Lord's share. Moses gave all the Lord's share to Eleazar the priest, just as the Lord had directed him. The half of the plunder belonging to the people of Israel, which Moses had separated from the half belonging to the fighting men, accounted to 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 young girls. From the half share given to the people, Moses took 1 of every 50 prisoner and animal and gave them to the Levites who maintained the Lord's tabernacle. All this was done just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then all of the military commanders came to Moses and said, Sir, we have accounted for all the men who went out to battle under our command. Not one of us is missing. So we are presenting the items of gold we captured as an offering to the Lord from our share of the plunder, armbands, bracelets, rings, earrings, and necklaces. This will make atonement for our lives before the Lord. So Moses and Eleazar the priest received all the gold from the military commanders, all kinds of jewelry and crafted objects. And all the gold commanders presented as a gift to the Lord weighed about 420 pounds. All the fighting men had taken some of the plunder for themselves, so Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gifts from the Lord, accepted the gifts from the military commanders and brought the gold to the tabernacle as a reminder to the Lord that the people of Israel belong to him. Numbers 31. That was Numbers 30 and 31. Now we go into the book of Job. Job 1. Did Psalms. Job 1. Prologue. There was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, and 500 teams of oxen, and 500 female donkeys. And he would employ many servants. He was in fact the richest person in that entire area. Every year when Job's son had birthdays, they invited their brothers and sisters to join them for celebration. On these occasions, they would get together to eat and drink. When the celebrations ended, and sometimes they lasted several days, Job would purify his children. He would get up early in the morning and offer a burnt offering for each of them. For Job said to himself, "Perhaps my children have sinned and have cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's regular practice. Job's first test. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan, the accuser, came with them. "Where have you come from?" the Lord asked Satan. And Satan answered the Lord, "I have been going back and forth across the earth, watching everything that goes on." Then the Lord asked Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and will have nothing to do with evil." Satan replied to the Lord, "Yes, Job fears God, but not without good reason. You have always protected him and his home and his property from harm. You have made him prosperous in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." "All right, you may test him," the Lord said to Satan. "Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but do not harm him physically." So Satan left the Lord's presence. One day when Job's sons and daughters were dining at the oldest brother's house, a messenger arrived at Job's home with this news: "Your oxen are plowing with the donkeys feeding beside them. When the Sabines raided us, they stole all the animals and killed all the farmer hands. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news: "The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burnt up your sheep and all of the shepherds. I am the one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, a third messenger arrived with this news: 3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camels and killed your servants. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news: "Your sons and daughters were feasting in their oldest brother's home. Suddenly a powerful wind swept in from the desert and hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed, and all your children are dead. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." Job stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground before God. He said, "I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be stripped of everything when I die. The Lord gave me everything I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord." In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. Job 1. That's it for today. Be blessed till tomorrow. It's tomorrow's reading.